Good evening. My name is Cameron Ingram, Executive Director of North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission. Welcome to the 2021 North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission Annual Rules Cycle Public Hearing for Hunting, Fishing, Trapping, and Game Lands Regulation Proposals. Speaking on behalf of staff of the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission and the agency's 19-member Board of Commissioners, I would like to extend my gratitude to you for taking part in this virtual public hearing. In light of the pandemic, we had to shift away from in-person hearings for our annual rules cycle to this virtual format, and we appreciate your adaptability. The Wildlife Commission is a state regulatory agency responsible for the enforcement of fishing, hunting, trapping, and boating laws and provides programs and opportunities for wildlife-related educational, recreational, and sporting activities. The General Assembly declares through state statutes which matters of fish, wildlife, and land management the Wildlife Commission can regulate through its rules. Before we begin the hearing, I want to emphasize how essential your active participation is in this rulemaking process. The Commission considers all comments the same consideration, whether submitted verbally as part of this online hearing or submitted by mail, email, or online via our comment portal at ncwildlife.org. Each of you participating tonight help us understand your needs, concerns, and ideas as they pertain to these proposed rules. Staff compile all comments into a document that the Commission's review before deciding whether to adopt, amend, or reject proposals. Thanks again for participating in this important process. The Commission appreciates your interest in the state's wildlife resources and respectfully considers all suggestions within its authority. At this point, I'm going to introduce the staff you'll be hearing from tonight in the order they'll be speaking, and then we'll go ahead and get started. First, we have Carrie Ruhlman, Senior Policy Analyst and Rulemaking Coordinator. Next will be Christian Waters, Chief of the Inland Fisheries Division. Then we'll have Brad Howard, Chief of the Wildlife Management Division. And finally, Brian McCray will finish up with the Chief of the Land and Water Access Division.
Before we get started with the proposals today, I would just like to remind everyone that we will be accepting comments on these proposed regulations through February 1st. Comments can be submitted online through our public comment portal via email or in writing, and all of this information can be found on our website at ncwildlife.org/proposed-regulations. We will also be holding a virtual public hearing on January 21st at 6:30 p.m. and we will accept verbal comments at that time. To register for the hearing, please visit our website.
Thanks, Carrie. I am Christian Waters, Chief of Inland Fisheries Division. I will be reviewing the proposed rule changes for inland fisheries. There are 17 proposals that we are proposing for inland fishing regulations for 2021-2022. The first 11 are trout proposals. F1 would combine the two existing public mountain trout waters catch and release classifications, catch and release artificial flies only trout waters, and catch and release artificial lures only trout waters into a single classification, catch and release artificial flies and lures only trout waters. F2 removes Franks Creek in Graham County from wild trout natural bait waters. This proposal will remove 4.1 miles of public mountain trout waters, and 4/10 miles of Franks Creek on game lands will be reclassified to wild trout waters. F3 will remove Hemp Hill Creek in Haywood County from wild trout natural bait waters. This proposal will remove 3.7 miles of public mountain trout waters. F4 would remove Buff Creek in Jackson County from wild trout natural bait waters. This proposal will remove 2.8 miles of public mountain trout waters, and 1 mile of Buff Creek on game lands will be reclassified to wild trout waters. F5 will modify the upper boundary of hatchery-supported trout waters on Big Pine Creek in Allegheny County, removing approximately 4.5 miles of public mountain trout waters. The designated reach will be from State Road 1464 Bridge to the confluence of Brush Creek. F6, remove Meadow Fork in Allegheny County from hatchery-supported trout waters. This proposal will remove 5 miles of public mountain trout waters. F7 will remove Mill Creek in McDowell County from hatchery-supported trout waters. This proposal will remove 6 miles of public mountain trout waters. F8 clarifies that there is no closed season for harvest in undesignated trout waters. F9 clarifies the boundary of delayed harvest trout waters reaches of the Watauga River in Watauga County. The designated reaches are State Road 1114 Bridge to Valley Cruces Community Park lower boundary, and State Road 1103 Bridge to the confluence of Laurel Creek. This proposal will not add or remove any public mountain trout waters. F10 will clarify that Boundary Line Pond in Wilkes County is designated as public mountain trout waters and further classified as hatchery-supported trout waters. And the last trout proposal, F11, will clarify that the lower hatchery-supported trout waters boundary on the Middle Prong Roaring River in Wilkes County is a second bridge on State Road 1736. Our next two proposals address largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, and spotted bass. F12 will clarify that the daily creel limit for largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, and spotted bass in Allegheny County portion of the New River downstream of Fields Dam in Grayson, Virginia, is 5 fish in combination. F13 will prohibit harvest of largemouth bass from 3 ponds associated with the Martin Marietta Park in the city of New Bern, Craven County. F14 addresses striped bass, prohibit harvest of striped bass from 3 ponds associated with the Martin Marietta Park in the city of New Bern, Craven County. F15 addresses blue catfish, will establish an exception to the general statewide regulation for blue catfish in the North Carolina portion of the Dan River, Caswell County, downstream of Danville, Virginia, by allowing only 1 fish greater than 32 inches to be possessed in the daily creel. F16 will allow American eel greater than the 9-inch minimum length limit to be used for cut bait, provided the body depth of the eel is at least 1/2 inch. F17 will add the African longfin eel, Creole painted crayfish, big claw crayfish, marble crayfish, apple snail, olive mystery snail, European eel, oriental weatherfish, brown hooplo, yellow bass, short fin eel, Prussian carp, European perch, European minnow, and a Moor sleeper to the list of species for which it is unlawful to transport, purchase, possess, sell, or stock in the public or private waters of North Carolina. The proposed change also includes taxonomic clarifications and corrections.
I'm Brad Howard, Chief of the Wildlife Management Division. I will be reviewing the proposed rule changes for wildlife management. The Wildlife Management Division has 5 rule proposals for consideration this year. The first proposal deals with deer. It's proposal H1. This proposal modifies the definition of a muzzleloading firearm to allow for the use of preloaded powder capsules in muzzleloaders during the black powder season. The second proposal, H2, deals with legal archery equipment. This proposal will modify the permitted archery equipment to allow for the use of sling bows for taking of whitetail deer. The third proposal deals with small game and specifically quail management. This proposal, H3, creates a new NCWRC private land program called Wild Quail Management Areas. And this will allow dedicated property managers who are enrolled in the program to implement specific additional management actions to benefit the production of wild bobwhite quail on their property. The fourth proposal, H4, deals with trapping. This amendment will allow the use of remote trap checking systems in lieu of a physical trap check under very specific conditions. The final proposal, H5, deals with bears, and this amendment will correct the open season for the taking of bear in Camden, Chowan, and Pasquotate counties. This is basically an administrative correction, and there's already a temporary rule in place that fixes that problem in the rule text.
I am Brian McCray, Chief of the Land Water Access Division. I will be reviewing the proposed rule changes for property, game lands, and wildlife conservation areas. These proposals begin with G1 and can be found on page 12 of the public hearing booklet, or you can follow along with this PowerPoint presentation. G1 will codify the Commission's authority to manage public access and use of Commission property and/or waive any non-statutorily required rules in Chapter 10 to protect public health, public safety, wildlife resources, and Commission property. G2 will redefine the description of a temporary restricted zone. G3 will remove the Laurinburg Fox Trial facility from the NCAC. G4 will clarify that coyotes, armadillos, and groundhogs are authorized to be taken on game lands by trapping during the regulated trapping season. This rule also clarifies that foxes can be trapped on game lands during the regulated trapping season in counties with a session law that authorizes fox trapping in that county. This proposal also establishes a closed trapping season on game lands from April 1 through October 31. G5 will clarify that licensed trappers can use bait on game lands while trapping. G6 will clarify NCAC rule text that identifies where game lands designated in the Disabled Access Program are listed. G7 will amend NCAC rule text by removing Brunswick County game land. G8 will clarify NCAC rule text that establishes the December segment of the bear season for Alligator River, Buck Ridge, Chowan Swamp, Gull Rock, and Band Swamp game lands. G9 will clarify that horseback riding is allowed 7 days per week from May 16 through August 31, and on Sundays only, September 1 through May 15, on R. Wayne Bailey, Caswell, Chatham, Jordan, and PD River game lands. This proposal will also allow equestrian riding on gated roads and trails posted for equestrian use at PD River Game Land. This proposal will also clarify that a game land license is not needed to ride horses on the American Tobacco Trail at Jordan Game Land. G10 will prohibit the pursuing or chasing of deer and bear with dogs for the purposes of training or hunting on the Beaufort County portion of Goose Creek Game Land north of NC 33. G11 will implement permanent rule text to replace a temporary rule that corrected a clerical error in the NCAC regarding the primitive weapons seasons for deer on Nicholson Creek Game Land. G12 will change Perkins Game Land from an introductory either-sex gun season to a conservative either-sex gun season. G13 will clarify the times and places where horseback riding will be permitted and not allowed on the Sandhills Game Land. G14 will amend NCAC rule text to remove references to impoundments on Stones Creek Game Land. G15 will prohibit horseback riding at William H. Silver Gameland. G16 will clarify NCAC rule text regarding restrictions on wildlife conservation areas. G17 will add the definition of a 7 days per week game land and indicate that hunting is allowed Monday through Sunday during open seasons. This proposal will also add the definition for a 4 day per week game land and indicate that hunting is allowed Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. Further, as per General Statute 103-2, this rule will indicate that on Sundays, hunting on game lands between 9:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. is prohibited. The use of a firearm to take deer that are run or chased by dogs is prohibited. And hunting within 500 yards of a place of religious worship, as defined by General Statute 14-54.1b, or any accessory structure thereof, is prohibited. This rule proposal does not apply to migratory game birds. G18 will change the following 6 game lands to 4 days per week game lands. G19 will change the following 45 game lands to 7 days per week game lands. And finally, G20 will prohibit the harvest of bear on Sunday on the following game lands in the Coastal Bear Management Unit.
Thank you, everyone, for participating tonight in this important rulemaking process. We look forward to compiling your comments so that we can make the best decisions on how we regulate wildlife resources in North Carolina. We look forward to 2021 and getting outdoors and enjoying our resources in the state. Good luck. Thank you to staff, and please be safe. Thank you.